As Douglas goes looking for Leonard Wolfe, Heather makes her way to Brookhaven Hospital, where soon after she discovers the first of a succession of creepy dolls and love notes created in her honor by a mysterious figure named Stanley Coleman. While it isn't exactly clear how Stanley Coleman fits into the bigger picture, if at all, what seems rather evident is that Stanley is communicating with Heather from beyond the grave. Perhaps Stanley was an old school chum of Alessa's and is now conflating her with Heather, which isn't much of a stretch, of course, or perhaps Team Silent felt it was appropriate to ramp up the mystery, ambiguity, and creepy factor by introducing Stanley's notes and weird dolls into the game. Since these notes are being found at Brookhaven, a hospital for the mentally disturbed, and given the patient chart which mentions Stanley, we can presume that he is indeed suffering from, or was suffering from, delusions, and was a patient at this hospital, of course. We also know that Stanley is part of the order with this mention of virtue and paradise that he talks about. Perhaps Stanley knew Alessa by means of the order and was subsequently driven insane, ending up at Brookhaven. It is not clear if Stanley met Alessa at Brookhaven, since she was hidden away from the other patients. It seems that perhaps Stanley learned of the impending ritual to birth the god of the order. So perhaps this piece of information was offered to the flock in the form of a prophecy. Or perhaps Stanley himself was indeed a prophet of the order in his own right, driven mad by his religious visions, increasingly unable to distinguish providence from reality. Then there is this really creepy and violent writing that Heather finds on the wall, which is apparently Stanley Coleman's riddle. Blue like a glassy bead is a reference to an occulted object known as the Nazar, which is a glassy bead resembling a blue eye, which has been used as a protection against the curse of the evil eye in Turkey and regions throughout the Middle East for thousands of years. Heather is most definitely being watched, as the riddle and Stanley's diary entries indicate. In another one of Stanley's journal entries, he mentions ebony hair like the night sky and your pristine glance, which most definitely describes Alessa. It seems fairly evident that Stanley Coleman is a ghost. Even the name Stanley, which means a stone clearing or a quarry, and the surname Coleman, referring to someone who works with coal, are both hinting at this character being dead and buried in the ground. And like many ghosts, are often dealing with unresolved issues, unwilling or sometimes unable to move past the purgatory between this world and the next. Stanley may have found himself infatuated with Alessa while he was alive, and now he is conflating her with Heather for obvious reasons. Another reason I think Stanley knew Alessa in real life is because he tells her that they haven't seen each other for such a long time. And why would Stanley try to gift a 17-year-old Heather with a doll anyway? Some may conclude that Stanley's doll and his delusional writings are merely because he is insane. However, that doesn't explain how he seems to know so much about Alessa or Heather, and why he writes as if he's known about her or known her for a very long time. If Stanley is now a ghost, which all the evidence points to, then he simply is stuck in a deep state of denial and anguish over his situation. Which begs the question, what exactly happened to Stanley in the first place? The answer to this question seems to be offered up by Stanley himself in his previous note to Heather. After Heather finds the key mentioned by Stanley, she uses it to unlock the door to a hospital room. In this room, Heather reads an article written by Joseph Schreiber about a secretive society operating under the guise of a children's charity known as Hope House. In the article, Schreiber finds a suspicious-looking round concrete structure on the property that he suspects may be used as a prison or ritual site. It seems that Stanley Coleman may have been one of those children that suffered abuses at the hands of the order. It certainly would explain his religiosity, his mental illness, as well as his familiarity with Alessa. And incidentally, in classic Silent Hill fashion, the name Schreiber is German for writer. One thing Team Silent has been consistent upon is that every character name has some very deep significance going on to their role in the story. Now, soon after speaking with Leonard Wolf on the phone, Heather comes across the seal of Metatron for the first time in the game. This triggers a vivid and powerful memory of Alessa for Heather. She remembers Lisa being good to her despite the hellish experience in that hospital room. Heather mentions that Lisa was so heavenly in that hellish hospital. And this statement is a direct reference to the seal of Metatron. So heavenly in that hellish hospital room, in Alessa's words, is a direct reference to the seal of Metatron. Remember that Metatron is comprised of two words. Meta meaning that which is above or beyond, and Tron referring to physical reality. The name Metatron found in the Hebrew scriptures is known as the messenger between heaven and earth. In other words, the seal of Metatron is a symbol for bringing together heaven and earth, not only for the birth of God by Alessa, but in order to usher in the creation of a paradise earth, which is to unify the perfect nature of a God with earth. Hence, Heather's words, so heavenly in that hellish hospital room,